your affiliation and whatnot in the chat. And all right, yeah, let's get going. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. MNerd is on holiday today for Veterans Day, so I apologize for my casual apparel. But thank you so much for being here. My name is Ben Baima. I'm the Policy Director for the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department and the Chair of the Rio Grande Trail Commission. Howard is one of the commissioners, or Commissioner Gross is one of the commissioners for the Rio Grande Trail, and he's done a ton of work to get this RFP together to try to coalesce a nonprofit organization that will take over the long-term management of the trail. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we'll walk through this presentation together. Can everybody hear me all right? And can everybody see the presentation all right? Great, awesome. So just a little bit about, let me start with a little bit about the Rio Grande Trail, and then we'll talk a little bit about the RFP. So the Rio Grande Trail is a long envisioned, long distance trail that would span 500 miles from Sunland Park to the border with Colorado, following the Rio Grande corridor as closely as possible. But as we've discovered this past year, there's clearly a lot of sovereign land boundaries within the Rio Grande corridor. So the trail will divert around those sovereign land boundaries. And it's a trail that's meant for hikers, bikers, and equestrians. So a multi-purpose trail that goes through very rural parts of the state, as well as the most populated parts of the state. So both Albuquerque and Santa Fe have segments of trail going through them. And then parts of it are, you know, in the middle of nowhere in southern New Mexico or far to the north. So that's just a little bit about the trail. And so the reason why we're putting out this request for proposal is there's a need to coalesce a nonprofit to take over the long-term management of the trail. And we need somebody to help us with the creation of this nonprofit organization. So seating a board and the governance aspects of it, the fundraising aspects of it. And so that's really where this is coming from. The total available budget that we've allocated to this is $100,000 over a pretty much a 6-month period. Good God, not a 6-week period. So it's a substantial chunk of change. And we hope that this, you know, total available budget number will attract some great bidders such as you all. So I touched a little bit about this in the last slide, but there's the Rio Grande Trail as a project has been around for over a decade at this point. And as administrations change, as leadership changes, we've just lost a lot of our ability to be consistent with community partners, with tribal partners, with other state agency partners. And there's a clear need for a single entity to be consistent over the course and the lifespan of this project. I'm sure that if you're here, you're familiar with long distance trail development, and it's not a quick process. It takes a very long time. And what this trail needs is, what this project needs is consistency across that period of time to build out, you know, a 500-mile trail. And also a lot of our, you know, neighboring trails, so whether it's the CDT or the Arizona Trail or the PCT, they all have nonprofits that manage the stewardship and the long-term maintenance and management of these projects. And so there's no reason why the Rio Grande Trail should try to be different and do it purely through this government mode that frankly has not been the most effective way to do it. So what we're asking for from the contractor and for your proposals is 4 major steps that will be completed from the signing of the contract till the funds expire on June 30th of 2026. The first is public engagement. We want to know from all of the entities and stakeholders that we've already engaged with how this nonprofit can be effective and how this nonprofit can be as good as it can be to support these frontline communities and these communities that exist along the trail and all the stakeholder and user groups that will use the trail. We would like the contractor to produce a report that summarizes the input that was gathered from all these stakeholder groups and also develop sort of a governance strategy for the nonprofit. This doesn't have to be, the most detailed, governance structure. Like, it doesn't need to be what the nonprofit will use for the next 50 years, but we want to give them a really good starting point. We want to give them the tools to, I guess, excel, and that entails having some sort of structure for how they operate within themselves and how they engage with MNERD and the commission and all the stakeholders that are interested in the development of this trail. The third step is the seating of a board. So we would like the contractor to recruit board members for the nonprofit. This could, we have some ideas of who might be a good fit, but I'm sure that you all have your own personal networks and folks that you think would be a great fit to lead the Rio Grande Trail nonprofit. And then the final step is to guide the board. So through helping them with, first year strategic plan, through reimbursements, through funding, that sort of thing. Ideally, the board members will know how to do that, and maybe in the long term, there will be dedicated staff for the nonprofit. But in this first kind of phase of the creation, we would like the contractor to be sort of that support element for the board. These next two slides just kind of go over minimum qualifications and preferred qualifications. Pretty much, we would love for you to have, experience working in New Mexico, experience working with all of the stakeholder user groups. So hikers, bikers, equestrians, and then land managers. So federal land managers, tribal land managers. Obviously, there are tribal land boundaries, and we're not going to go into those tribal land boundaries, but historic boundaries are the entire state. And so it can get pretty complicated pretty quickly, and having some experience with tribal engagement and experience with tribal leadership is definitely one of those things that we think is critical for the success of this nonprofit and frankly for the continuation of the trail. This is just the criteria that we are going to use to evaluate the proposals. So qualifications and experience based on what we just talked about, the previous two slides, that makes up the major bulk of the scoring criteria, so 50%. The quality and feasibility of your approach to the project or the tasks and timeline, 20%. Budget clarity and cost effectiveness, obviously, $100,000. We're a state, entity that's doing this RFP, so we need to make sure that this is fiscally prudent. And then finally, just a good understanding of the mission of the trail, what we're hoping to accomplish through this project, and some experience with the stakeholders that are going to be, again, land managers and the user groups on the trail. There's also some additional percentage of total award. This is in statute, so there's certain percentages that are allocated to businesses that are located in New Mexico, Native American businesses, veteran businesses, etc. I think there's more of a comprehensive breakdown in the RFP, but we can talk more about that if there's any questions there. So next steps, obviously we're having the webinar today and look forward to any and all of your questions. If there are more questions after this, you can email me and submit questions by the 18th. So that's my email right there. We'll take any and all of your questions related to the RFP, whatever, and we're going to post those questions, the answers to those questions on the website by the 21st. So right before the holiday break there. And then by December 1st, end of day, we would love to get all proposals submitted by then. It's a tight contract. One of the problems that we've had with the Rio Grande Trail, just for context, is we get one-time money. We get special appropriations from the legislature. So we don't have this consistent funding like a capital outlay request or something that can be expended over multiple years. So we got this money in July, and there's been a lot of things going on. So this is the soonest we could get it out, and we would greatly appreciate if you could get your proposals in by December 1st. we're aiming to review all of those, first 2 weeks of December, then the holidays hit, and then early January, we're hoping to go into negotiations with the finalists, the selectee. And then as soon as we can get that contract signed, then we're off to the races. This is our proposed breakdown of what the timeline could look like. We really encourage respondents to the RFP to look at this and see if this aligns with how you would do it. And if not, please, please, please submit something that would work better for you. But unfortunately, June 30th, 2026 is a very hard stop for work on this because our money expires. Again, one-time annual appropriation. And with that, yeah, would love to take questions, answer questions, and yeah, hear your thoughts. Thank you thank you guys for being here. Thanks for your attention and time. And yeah, and please, if you can use the raise hand function, that just might make it easier for Howard and I to, yeah, get everyone in order. Seeing none. Howard, did I miss anything in my explanation, or is there anything that you would like to, any additional context you would like to add in here?
Just stress that, it's actually, I think you said 6 months, but it's actually a 5-month, 22-week contract timeline. And, that's really driven by the work needing to be done by the end of June. So
That's true. The likelihood of having a signed contract by January 1st is an unrealistic goal. Mid-January is a realistic goal. Yeah, Vicky, go for it.
Hi, Ben, thanks. My question is about how involved the subcommittee will be in terms of hands-on work that may need to be done.
I think that the subcommittee is serving more in the role of like advisory. So I'll be the contract manager between, on the contract. So it'll be a contract between MNerd and the contractor. And the subcommittee is there to provide input, but it's an unpaid commission. So I don't think that the subcommittee is really going to be doing a lot of the work, certainly showing up for, stakeholder engagement meetings when their time permits. But again, it's an unpaid commission. So Howard has generously volunteered a lot of time on this, and that's a big reason for hiring a contractor.
I would add that the subcommittee has been meeting every 2 weeks. When I say the subcommittee, specifically the nonprofit organization subcommittee. And if we don't have a reason to meet, we don't meet, but we have been at a pretty brisk pace over the summer to envision this work to help Ben make it into an RFP. And my assumption is once the work starts that we would want to keep meeting every 2 weeks, that we would want the contractor to provide us updates, but we really want to be a resource. We've been thinking about this, all year long. I think the subcommittee is of pretty uniform mindset, but we have a diversity of ideas on there, which has been very helpful. And so we would be there as a resource. We would be there to help the contractor succeed. We want this to succeed. So
I agree with that. Thanks for the question, Vicky. Appreciate it. Of course, I guess, seeing no other questions, just for the sake of discussion, do you think that the subcommittee, or would it be beneficial for you if the subcommittee was involved in some other way besides what Howard and I alluded to? Okay, Brenda, go for it.
Yeah, in terms of public meetings, like, and spaces for public meetings, is that going to be like how, if we had to rent meeting space or have meeting space, like where would those be? How would those get paid for? Is that out of the $100,000 budget?
Yeah, that'd be, so it's up to the contractor to organize all of that and pay for it out of the $100,000.
Are there any meetings that can be held at any public venues?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's all part of your proposal. So we don't need to rent out, the fanciest thing. And honestly, for a lot of the Rio Grande Trail Commission meetings, we haven't been paying for space. We've been using public venues. So like council chambers or like, yeah, wherever public meetings are generally held in small localities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would add if you read the RFP carefully, it talks about having one public meeting in each of the counties that the trail goes through or is envisioned to go through. And as Ben said, the county partners have been really great to work with so far. And my assumption was in putting this and helping to put this together would be that reaching out to county commissions that they would, I assume most of them would be very cooperative in helping out or the municipality that serves as the county seat.
Thanks for the question, Brenda. Appreciate it. Yeah, Ryan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Howard. My name is Ryan Lemon-Quinn, RLQ Consulting LLC, and I got passed along this RFP from Adam Rubel, the New Mexico Impact Investing Collaborative. I've been collaborating with them on some things. I would love to appreciate just a little bit more context of the ebbs and flows of this broader vision. On your website's really good in terms of all the meeting dates and minutes and agendas. And I started reading the master plan, which is excellent and comprehensive. I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit more to, in whatever you feel comfortable sharing, the nature of these ebbs and flows. Like it seems like there's a bunch of meetings in 1 year and then no meetings for a few years.
Yeah.
Is that tied to like these funds being released every few years or something? And I'm just trying to appreciate the broader context of this initiative. Yeah.
That's a great question, Ryan. Thank you. It's been a leadership challenge. It's been MNerd gets like I've only been at MNerd for a year and a half, and I took over this project in January, and then it spins back up. Like you have somebody who's willing to put in the time and effort, and then it spins back up again. And then or something like COVID happens, and then you have like this 3-year lapse, or like the commission hits a roadblock with like how to engage with the tribes, for example. And then it just like progress just stalls. So it's, and frankly, like I'm a political appointee for MNerd. So I leave when the governor's administration is over, which is, this time next year. So I think that we don't want that to keep happening, right? Like we don't want this ebb and flow to continue as it has, because it's harmful for progress. It takes a long time to, took me, I mean, I guess I'm still learning stuff about the trail, even after, 9 months of working on it. And so like a new person comes in next year and it's just, it takes a long time to spool back up. And so the real desire here is to keep that consistency and momentum moving forward through a nonprofit, and not rely on, government executives who just come in and come out and kind of can really hamper progress there. Did that answer your question? I'm happy to talk more about any of those things.
That's super helpful context. Thank you. The political appointee, kind of that turnover, that makes a lot of sense. Just personal curiosity, like this current window ending in June of next year, like setting up this nonprofit, I see the value, the need for it. Is there expected more funding coming beyond June that could like fund that nonprofit, or is part of it is the fundraising for the nonprofit? Like what percentage is dependent on it from June in the early, I guess the months following June. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So in the short session is coming up and it'll start, I believe, January 18th, and then we'll go for 30 days. And that's where all of the funding for the next fiscal year gets determined. We have a lot of allies in the New Mexico legislature, particularly Senator Steinborn. He's the one who created the commission a decade ago, when he was in the House, actually. And so I think that we are demonstrating that we can spend the funds and that there's momentum happening. And I think that there will definitely be some funding, that there will be funding next year. How much, I don't know. What percentage of that goes to the nonprofit? There's anti-donation clauses associated with, the state constitution, but I've envisioned sort of a, an MOA agreement between MNERD and the nonprofit to, I guess, solidify and better understand our working relationship and sort of transfer that management, the need for management, or I guess MNERD's accountability of management to parts of the nonprofit, and some funding as well.
And
Yeah,
I'd add, there have been, in addition to the funding that's gone to MNERD to, sorry, my video is a little poor, so I'm going to turn that off. But in addition to the money going to MNERD, there's been an appropriation to the Outdoor Rec Division of, I think it's been about $100,000 for the last few years. And so there, even while the commission wasn't meeting prior to earlier this year for a period, the planning group was continuing to do work in public outreach, in working on the trail alignment, in what I would say is like perfecting sections of trail to nominate. And so, our hope is that, well, we'll see where the funding goes down, but our hope is that that type of planning work will continue to happen, as well as some type of funding agreement between the commission and the nonprofit, respectful of those the anti-donation clause. The other thing is, in the deliverables for the report that we're asking to be produced, one of the items is suggestions of funding opportunities. And our hope is that also, not that that's just a list, but that's something we can start cultivating. In some ways, we have already started to get the word out to the philanthropic community here in New Mexico. So that's also a recognition that this NPO to be successful would really benefit from having some unrestricted funds, at the time the board is being seated, to get insurance, to, whatever those startup costs might be. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for that context, both of you. Really useful.
You're welcome.
Ken, go for it.
Hi, my name is Ken Romig. I'm with Consensus Planning. It seems as if all the presentations have actually been developed as I read the RFP, and that we would be utilizing existing presentation material for the public engagement phase. Is that correct? Do you anticipate that we would be producing additional presentations and content for those presentations, which, except, after public engagement phase, I suppose we go into a period of meeting and developing the board. So those presentations would be, I guess, derived from our work. But the first phase of public engagement, would you please describe what your opinion is of those presentations?
So we've been doing, the past 9 months, we've done a lot of public engagement through commission meetings, public commission meetings and stakeholder engagement meetings. And so there are lots of materials that are developed that we would hope that the contractor would pull from and utilize. There's like a 1-pager that's attached to the RFP too, that, the committee created. So that there's material out there, but as far as like specific stakeholder engagement regarding the creation of a nonprofit organization to take over the long-term management of the Rio Grande Trail, no. That material has not been created, and we would ask the subcontractor or the contractor to do that.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies if that was not clearly worded in the RFP. I apologize.
It was. It was. It's yeah. It's fine.
Cool. Thanks for your question, Ken. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And again, if you don't want to ask it now, or if you think of something later, just shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy. We'll respond promptly. We're very excited. This has been, I mean, Howard, well, actually, Howard's not so new. I'm pretty new to the Rio Grande Trail, but this has been a dream for a long time to create a nonprofit. So yeah, Brenda, go for it. Brenda, we see your hand raised. Did you have a question? Oh, maybe not. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your engagement. We really look forward to reviewing your proposals. And yeah, were there any questions in the chat of these questions? No. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. And yeah, please feel free to call, email, whatever works better for you. We're happy to respond. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
y'all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.